Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Today we're going to take a look at the new Dice Masters set, Dungeons & Dragons Battle for Faerun. Now this is the fourth iteration of the Dice Masters brands as far as core sets go. You had the two Marvel sets, Avengers vs. X-Men, then Uncanny X-Men, then the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dice Master set, which was my least favorite so far, and now the Dungeons & Dragons one, specifically Battle for Faerun, which the cards and the theme of some of the cards and some of the different organizations that they mentioned, like the Harpers and the Zentarum, are all from the specifically Forgotten Realms. That's the world of Faerun, the continent of Faerun, and the world of Torel. I'm such a huge nerd. So anyways, you already know, if you're familiar with my channel, that I really enjoy Dice Masters. Even the Yu-Gi-Oh! Set, while I think it's the worst one, it's still a fun game because the mechanics are really sound. It is Quarriors mixed with Magic the Gathering, which is really great. I still enjoy Quarriors quite a bit, but I enjoy the simplicity and speed of Dice Masters. So what does the Dungeons & Dragons brand add to it? Also, I should mention I'm a huge Dungeons & Dragons fan. I haven't played in quite a few years, but I was really into it for a long stretch of time before I was into board games, 3rd edition and 4th edition. So what this is, it's the same basic mechanics of the other Dice Master set, but with sets, plural, with a couple of extra add-ons, including leveling up your characters, which is probably the most notable feature, and lots of new organizations. It's still fully integratable, if I'm saying that correctly. It's late. With all the other sets, and presumably with the DC set that is soon to come out, but it just puts its own spin on a couple of different things. So let's go ahead and take a brief look at some of the cards that come in the starter set and also in the booster packs, and then we're going to come back. I'll let you know what I think. Okay, I'm going to go over some of the cards from D&D Dice Masters Battle for Faerun. First, I'll go over the stuff that comes in the starter set. Not every single card, just some of the ones I thought were interesting. Then I'll go over some of the cards you can get in booster packs and even a promo card. So here's some of the basic action cards that come in the starter set. You have Magic Missile, which lets you deal 2 damage to a target character or player when you use its action phase. If you have the 2 bursts, you can deal extra damage to a character equal to the level of your highest level adventurer in the field. If that doesn't make any sense yet, just wait a minute, I'll explain what the experience thing is all about. Also, global ability, you can pay a lightning bolt and deal damage to a character. You have Fireball, which is really nasty because it deals damage to everyone, both players and all their characters as well. You can even spend extra lightning to I call them lightning bolts, but lightning energy to deal damage to extra damage to a target character. And you can, if you get the 2 burst symbols, it deals additional damage to each player and character. You have Polymorph, which lets you swap a character that's out in the field for a character from that player's used pile, and also have to spin them down to level 1. It doesn't trigger any when fielded effects, but if you spend one of the mask symbols, you can spin one of your own characters down a level to spin another character up a level with the global ability, which is pretty cool. Resurrection is really neat in that you can roll a die from your used pile if you use the action phase, and anyone can use the global ability and spend a shield to prep an extra die during their turn. Now, I don't even really want to bother talking about these 2 cards. I just thought it was really funny that you have Dimension Door and Finger of Death, and the artwork makes no sense for them whatsoever, especially if you're familiar with the spells from D&D. So anyways, I just thought that was pretty interesting and weird. Let's move on to some of the characters and monsters that come in this set. Okay, I'm going to show you 1 card from each of the 8 monsters and or adventures that come in the basic starter set. Remember that you get 3 copies of each card. Now here's one of the troll cards, which has the regenerate ability. You get to re-roll it when it gets knocked out, and the first time each turn that a troll regenerates, you gain 2 life, which is really good. Vampires have energy drain, which means they get to spin down engaged foes, and the first time an attacking vampire damages a character, you get to gain 2 life, so there's another life-gaining creature. There's lots of dragons in this set. Dragons have breath weapons. You can pay 3 energy to deal 3 damage to your opponent and all of his creatures with this particular blue dragon. Green dragon, and by the way, as I'm going through these, bear in mind that these have different symbols from the other Dice Master set as well. A lot of them thematic to the organizations within the Forgotten Realms version of Dungeons & Dragons. The green dragon has a breath weapon as well, but also his special ability is spin each character damaged by this breath weapon down a level. Now we're getting into some of the humanoid characters, and they have an interesting ability called Experience. This is the human paladin, specifically the Master Lords Alliance, whatever that means. I actually don't know. Experience, what this means is that whenever you take out an opposing creature on your turn, he's going to gain an experience token. You can use any token you want. They don't come with the game. In order to get +1 attack and +1 defense, you actually put it onto the card, which means that from then on, whenever you field dice from this card, they're going to get that boost. And some characters use experience for different things. When active, you take no damage from your opponent's when fielded effects for this particular card. Gelatinous Cube. I'm kind of putting these bottom ones in order, by the way, the ones I like the most. So the last few cards will be the ones that I really, really like. So Gelatinous Cube, whenever a character is knocked out during the attack step, you can pay a shield and have the Gelatinous Cube capture it, and the Gelatinous Cube can block any number of NPCs, which are what they call the white dice, the starter dice in this set. Halfling Thief, another human character, same experience ability, but also with the special ability that when fielded, you get to draw a die. If it's an NPC, a white die, you get to place it in your use pile, which is good. You can mill it out. If not, or sort of get it out of your deck. But if not, you get to roll it, which is even better. And finally, my favorite card from the starter set, the Beholder, one of the 3 Beholders, and they're all pretty good. But this one in particular, when fielded, if you have other NPC dice that are fielded, you get to knock up to 2 of them out, put them into your, or not knock them out, I'm sorry, put them into your use pile. And if you do, you get that many basic action dice for free, which is really ridiculously cool. And even his global ability is really cool. You get to pay an energy and essentially stow away an action die for later use. And he's really, really good. Even, I mean, 2 of his faces cost nothing to summon, and it's still a 4/3 and a 5/4. That is just really, really good. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the cards you can get in booster packs. All right, we'll start off with a couple of spell cards. You have Prismatic Spray, which lets you wipe out the card text of your opponent's creatures. Limited Wish, you get to name a non-NPC die. Your opponent pulls a die from the bag, and if it is that named die, you get to return it to its card. You otherwise place it in the bag or its used pile, which is going to be very, very powerful. The Draco Lich also has a breath weapon like the other dragons I mentioned, but also when you're fielded, you can purchase a basic action die at no cost and roll it. You may use it if it shows an action phase. You otherwise put it into your bag, so it gives you free action dice, but it is an expensive card to purchase. Owlbears. By the way, for these, I kind of picked some of the iconic D&D creatures. Owlbear, when fielded, you get to knock out an adventurer. Pretty good. Umber Orc. When fielded, you get to reroll all opposing level 1 and 2 characters. Move each die that shows an energy face to your opponent's used pile. Very, very nasty. Purple Worm, which would fit very well in any kind of green Magic the Gathering deck because it has Overcrush, which is essentially trample. Excess damage over and above what the creature that blocked it could take goes to your opponent's life points. And when assigned to attack, knock out a character, and either players, then deal damage to your opponent equal to that character's level, which is really, really great. The Tarrasque, which is one of the most iconic D&D characters. It has Regenerate, of course, because it's almost impossible to kill the Tarrasque, which lets you reroll a die when it's knocked out. When the Tarrasque regenerates, you knock out all adventurers, both players, and deal damage to your opponent for each adventurer knocked out this way. Global ability, you can pay a shield, choose an attacking character. It goes to the used pile if knocked out this turn, which is there's so much good about that card. Red Dragon, gotta show a Red Dragon. Really powerful breath weapon, and then you can pay 2 life instead of an energy to pay this breath weapon cost, which is just so great. Pit Fiends, one of the iconic devils of the D&D universe. After you field your first Pit Fiend, cards are cheaper for you by 2 less, which is really good. Some of the human-like characters, you have the Drow Assassin. At the end of the attack step, knock out all adventurers engaged with this character. The Elf Wizard has experience, which means she's going to get more powerful as she takes out opposing characters, but also, when fielded, action dice cost 1 less to purchase, and when assigned to attack, you get to roll up to 2 action dice from your opponent's used pile and use any actions that are rolled and then just return the dice afterwards, which could be really, really good. And the Half Dragon. This is good if you want to do a tribal Dice Masters deck because dragons cost less for you when you field him, but also your dragons get +1 attack and defense when attacking. And finally, this is a promo character. If you're lucky, you might be able to get it when you pick up your set, depending on what your store, if your store has any of them. That's how I got it. But Minsk in Boo. Now, one thing to keep in mind, he'll only ever have 1 dice. That's his max. But he's cool because he levels up like the other characters, but he does it automatically at the end of every turn. You're going to put tokens on him. But if you ever attack with him and or for whatever reason he goes to the use pile, then you're going to have to remove all of his experience. So he doesn't stay powerful the way the other cards do because he's a unique adventurer. However, he does have another ability. Once per turn, you can remove a token from him or them to force an opposing character to block. By the way, I know they're from like a video game that I never played, which I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for. But anyways, that's some of the coolest cards that come in the Dungeons & Dragons Dice Masters Battle for Faerun starter set and expansion packs. Let's get to my final thoughts. I am very confident at this point in saying that this is by far my favorite Dice Masters set. I really, really love it. How much do I love it? The other sets, and I've mentioned this before, I felt buying the starter set and maybe impulse buying a few booster packs was enough for me. With the Marvel sets, it's cool. I don't need every single card. I have more than enough content there, and when you start mixing all the different starter sets together, so much content, why would I ever need more? With the Dungeons & Dragons set, I couldn't help myself. I bought a Gravity Feed booster box. That's how much I want to get into this game. I really enjoy it. There's so many things that are just better than the other sets, from the new mechanics that they offer, like the experience and leveling up, to the artwork. The artwork, it just seems to be made for this game. It just works so well. And yeah, it's borrowed artwork. It's all from Dungeons & Dragons. I don't know if it's all, some of it I think is 4th edition, some of it is the new 5th edition, but I haven't seen a lot of the new 5th edition books. But it doesn't matter because the artwork is solid. It's like the Dungeons & Dragons is known for having some of the world's best fantasy artwork throughout its history, and I'm so glad that they had a chance to put it on display here. So I'm really glad they did that. It looks great. The graphic design looks great. All the new organization symbols, so there's that. Now, as far as the theme goes, okay, it's interesting because Dice Masters as a whole is not a very thematic game. And I know that some people will say that it is, but I feel as if it still doesn't make sense in some ways. Like, especially for the Dungeons & Dragons Dice Masters, why would there be competing adventuring parties, sometimes mixed up of monsters and adventurers, going up against another party? Really doesn't make sense. At least with Avengers vs. X-Men, the original set, you could say, well, makes sense. The storyline was Avengers vs. X-Men. Even if you're mixing and matching teams during the game, okay, superheroes fight each other, that's fine, I get that, and there's villains in the mix as well. Here it makes a little less sense, but other elements of the game make much more thematic sense, like the experience and leveling up, getting those buffs when you take out creatures, or with that really cool promo character, just leveling up at the end of every turn, getting more experience. That's really neat. And then elements like the breath weapon, just spreading out and dealing damage to a lot of different things. The basic action cards like Resurrection Spell and Fireball really make much more sense than a lot of the other basic action cards I've seen in Dice Masters up until this point. The equipment, being able to equip Magic Helmet and protecting yourself from all the damage, that just speaks to me and makes sense as a role player. So it's both hits and misses as far as the theme goes, but overall it succeeds much better than the other Dice Masters set. And boy, there's just so many individual cards to love here, taken in different directions. I love all the different creatures and the new characters, and even aside from the leveling up, the cool abilities that they have, like the Elf Wizard and some of the tribal abilities going on, like with the Dragonborn, who can buff up other dragons and make them cheaper, and there's the Red Dragon, who you can pay life in order to increase his breath weapon. There's so many just neat abilities. I could go on and on and on and go over so many different cards, and I'm not saying that there weren't cool cards in the other Dice Masters set, but I notice it better here because of how much better the game looks, how much better it feels, how much better the theme feels, and I just want to collect every card. This is a really great, solid set. I hadn't played Dice Masters since I played the Yu-Gi-Oh set, which was a huge disappointment thematically and artwork-wise, and as far as the amount of content you got in the starter box as well, it was a disappointment. But this is a good starter set to buy. You're going to want to buy more booster packs. I'm sorry to say that. I know that overall that's still the biggest downside for Dice Masters, but hey, individual booster packs still only 79 cents. Buy a few, flesh it out. You don't even need to do that. You can just buy the starter set, but buying maybe, $10 worth of the starter packs or the booster packs and you're set. I mean, it's great. You'll have a ton of content, a ton of dice to work with. I could go on. It's a great set. It's my favorite one so far. I'm sure the DC Dice Master set will be good, but I doubt it will be as good as this. This is like my set of Dice Masters that I really want to buy into for all the different interesting mechanics and theme of it. It just knocks it out of the park. That is Dungeons & Dragons Dice Masters, The Battle of Faerun, starter set and booster packs. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.